So we're taking the wheel off. Not going to teach you how to do that again. Once all the bolts have come out, just give it a knock and it should drop off. Put it under the car, safety, you never know. Jacks have been known to fail, so it does drop down. There's something for it to drop on and not the car itself or you. So this is the front passenger side now. Moving on to part 3 of the series. And yeah, I've just bent under the car just to check that the chocks are in place, because when we do the back wheel, the handbrake is coming off, so, and the brake fluid reservoir is undone so that we can wind back the tool. So at this point, I don't know why, but I'm deciding to undo the disc holding screw before anything else. You can do it that way. I wouldn't advise it. I don't know why I did it that way. I think at this point I was just so exhausted that I was just in autopilot. At most of the points in this, I didn't even realise I was being filmed. I was filming myself. So I'm WD-40ing up the disc because I've already tried to take the disc off without using my method, which is always WD-40 first, and then your torque 30 on your holding screw, and the disc should come off. But as you can see, the caliper's still on with the brake pads, so I don't know what made me do it in this order. So don't do it in this order, but just do this after you've taken the caliper off. Obviously refer to part 1 of the video and then you'll get the right order, but I don't know what made me take that off. So now take the screwdriver out and the plastic caps, the dust covers, so you can get to the sliding bolts, and then you want your 7mm hex or Allen key or whatever you've got a 7mm of to go in there. Most people just use an Allen key. I like to use a socket because if they are hard to open, it's a lot more easier with a wrench. Camera's not in a great position, so it does get moved around a lot. I just get the screwdriver in the bottom here to push this sliding bolt out. I'll do the same with the top. You're not going to be able to see that. So as you can see, I'm just getting the screwdriver in there, pushing the sliding bolt out. Once you get it out, then you get enough purchase on it to pull it out with your fingers. So doing the same with the top, but you won't be able to see that because whilst you're doing these sort of jobs, it's not ideal to film yourself doing it. So I do move the camera around a little bit to try and get so that you can see it better. So cleaning up the sliding bolts, giving them a brush. Quick disclaimer, I am not a mechanic, despite what people think. So once the bolts are all cleaned up, you can get your screwdriver and start prying off the caliper. In this case, it came off quite easily. So you take that off, get your wire hanger ready. As you can see, I'm taking it off and the disc is falling off at the same time. That is not meant to happen. This is how not to do it, basically. Do not undo that disc until you've taken the caliper off, taken the pads out and hung it up. and then you can undo the disc. There's absolutely no need. I don't know why I did it, but there you go, hell's bells. So I'm hanging the caliper up now. Then I'm going to take the disc off and just lay it on the floor. It's an old disc. They'll go to the recycling centre. Not your normal recycling centre, but I take it to a car recycling. So somebody who does scrap cars, you can go and get parts from them sort of places. I've had loads of stuff, seat belts, all sorts of stuff I've collected from scrap yards. And if you take metal in there, they normally don't charge you anything for the parts you're taking. So as you can see, I've taken the pads out. One of the pads is now hanging down. That is the pad that's attached to the brake wear sensor wire. Don't do what I did, which was break that. I broke the plastic connector. It snapped off completely, and I'm glad I didn't record any sound because there was a lot of expletives. Is it expletives? So yeah, that was another job to add to the massive amount of work I had already given myself. So like I said in the last couple of videos, give yourself plenty of time. This is not a weekend job, especially if you've never done anything like this before. Don't take it on. Start with the small jobs, the more practical jobs, rather than a massive job like this on your own, especially. So I've snapped the connector, and it's not the connector to the brake pad. It's the connect, because I'm going to replace that anyway with the new brake pad. It's the actual connector that the brake pad plugs into. Now, there are two ways you can deal with this. You can do what I'm doing, which is repair it, or you can cut the wires. As you can see it now, you can cut the wires and connect the wires together, and it will turn off the brake wear light on your dashboard. But I decided to do the whole thing. As you can see, I've got the wires exposed now, and those two pink things you can see, they're like waterproof that go inside these two holes. I wouldn't worry about too much about this part of the video unless it happens to you, which I think it will be very rare for this to happen. So those two wires, they need reconnecting to the plastic socket, and then I need to glue the plastic bit that my finger's on now to the socket that clips into the brake wear, the brake wear sensor on the brake pad. So that's a job for later. There's the connector. It's not looking good. Yeah, it looks in a sorry state. It is snapped. And then is what I'm doing. I'm undoing the little connector bits and getting the old wire out that's stuck in there. Be ever so careful with that. Don't, because the connector bits are brittle and they will snap. I know one's snapped. So at least I've got one to wrap around the wire. If that fails, you can always solder it in place. If you know, this is what I said about the tools and equipment and things that you're going to need. The tools in part one that I gave you a list of all the things that you need are just a guide. They're not going to be all the tools you need. So I've got them open now, ready for the wires to go back in. So I've just left that job until the end. Is what I'm going to do now is just carry on with doing the brakes, because that is an essential for driving the car. I'm not going to need a brake wear sensor to get me to work on Monday morning, so I'm going to leave that till last. I think it's important to get all the brakes back together. So I'll give it a clean up, plenty of, get your wire brushes out and clean up all the rust. Get rid of all the old copper grease from the last time that brakes were changed. and get rid of all the rust and the dirt, and be quite liberal with the brake cleaner. As you can see, top of the picture, I've tied up the wires out of the way. There are other options to do with those wires. You can just literally connect them together, and you won't have to worry about it, and then probably repair it at a later date, because your brakes are not going to wear that quickly that you're not going to realise. But I did once buy a car that had that done to it. The brake wear sensor was broken, and they didn't bother connecting it. They just connected the two wires together, and then when I came to changing the brakes on that car, when I went to put the brake wear sensor on, there wasn't anything there. But I ended up getting a new cable and then attaching all that, which was an absolute nightmare. So understandably, the people had just connected it together for the easy way and then sold me the car. But things like that, you're not going to notice until you actually take the wheel off and start changing brakes. So cleaning up the caliper as well. Especially around the cylinder, try to get all the rusty bits out, and then make sure you just keep it hung up. You don't, and make sure not to kink that pipe, the brake fluid pipe. It shouldn't kink because it's a metal type of pipe anyway. In behind the rubber, there's metal wiring to keep it so it doesn't get kinked. And then a lot more cleaning. You just need to make sure you get all the rust off, especially on the bits I'm doing now. This sliding bit where the brake pads go. If that's dirty or it's got rust on it, your brake pads aren't going to move as smoothly when you're pressing the brake. They're going to stick, so you aren't going to get the braking power. Yeah, and then if they get stuck on or they're stuck off, then one side you'll start to get uneven braking where you press the brake and you feel the car just jolt to one side. Or so just be careful of that. Make sure you get it all cleaned off. Same on the bottom of the caliper as well. And then plenty of brake cleaner. Like I said in the previous video, I got a tin of brake cleaner for each of the wheels. So I only ended up using 3, but as you can see, all the dirt dripping off there, and it's handy to have that plastic tray underneath to catch all the rust and the dirt and the dust and everything, and the cleaning fluid that you use in WD-40 brake fluid when you're bleeding the brakes all gets caught into that tray. If you don't have a tray, you can use a plastic bag, cardboard, just anything just to stop, the drive getting dirty. I mean, if you don't matter whether you've got a driveway or not, you can still do these jobs. I've done it out on the street, on the road before, at the end of a cul-de-sac. It's quite easy to, it doesn't have to be on a driveway. So that's all the cleaning done. Just going to get on with getting some copper grease on all the various parts. You need it around the hub especially, and all it is to prevent squealing, and it also stops corrosion and the parts sticking together. But I'm still cleaning. Yeah, about the connector, that isn't going to be an easy job. Again, this is meant to be a 20-30 minute video, but it's sort of stretched out a bit just because of that plastic connector. And my day ended up getting longer as well. So wind back tools on, make sure your reservoir is open, and when you're winding it back, you keep going up and checking the reservoir to make sure it doesn't overflow. The fluid is highly corrosive. It'll take the paint off. Don't get it on your paintwork or anywhere. Just make sure you keep it ground level. So I'm going up to check now to make sure it's not overflowed. And just make sure it doesn't not just overflow, but doesn't become empty, especially when you're bleeding them as well. But yeah, so you want to be able to see it like that. I've used a turkey baster to take fluid out, or you can get a syringe or whatever you can use. So we're still winding it back. Just keep turning it. Sorry about the camera position at the minute. It's not ideal, but I was trying to stop the glare from the sun, and I left the jack bar in the jack instead of taking it out and putting it at the side, just because at this point my back was killing, my knees were killing, my hands and arms. Yeah, so this was day 2 of the brakes. I mean, day 1 was window screen wipers, day 2 was the oil change on the Beamer, day 3 and 4 were the brakes on this car. And I think I crammed too much into the 4 days. Don't do it. I advise you not to do it. Just plan what jobs you want to do, work around what time you've got, and then work out, give yourself lots of time. If you need to do front brakes, do them in one weekend. If you need to do back brakes, do them in one weekend. Don't do all 4 brakes in one weekend. I mean, some people might be able to do it, they might. But you've got to take into account you're on the floor, things aren't going to go right. You're working on a car that's 18 years old with 215,000 miles on it. It's not, everything's not going to go to plan. And it doesn't, trust me. You can, so I've got the brake pads, they can go back on. Obviously, these brake pads have got a brake wear sensor on them. Don't get them mixed up with the other brake pads that are put on the driver's side. So the brake wear sensor's on the passenger side. But you'll know that because when you take the old brake pads out of whichever one, you'll see that there's a brake wear sensor with a connector on the end. So it'd be quite difficult to get them mixed up. But it's just a good point to note that if you do accidentally put the ones on the wrong side, just remember, one's got a connector with a wire. So when you get the disc out, you've got to, there's a like a residue on it. In the other video, I didn't film this bit, but you just spray a bit of brake cleaner on it and then wipe it off, because it's got some sort of like a residue to stop it rusting or protect it from the elements. And you just want to take it off of the bit where the pads are going to make contact. None of the other bit, because you don't want that bit to rust. So the protection will help, make the disc last a bit longer. So you're just wiping that off on the bit where the pads are going to make contact. And then copper grease everything up to stop the squealing. If you don't put it on, I have once, I didn't put it on, and the squealing is awful. I had to take it all apart again and apply it. It's mainly the back of the pads, but since then I just put it on everything. You probably don't have to put it on the hub. You probably, but I do. Like I said earlier, I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a professional. This is just a guide, just an informational video to help you, um, to help you do it yourself. This probably, none of this will happen to you. You'll probably take it all off. It'll be easy. None of the nuts will be seized. None of the cylinders in the calipers will be seized. You won't break the connector for the brake wear sensor, and everything will be yeah, brilliant. And it will take you one afternoon or a couple of hours. But things don't work like that for me, unfortunately. Things tend to start to go wrong as soon as I try to do something. So anyway, enough about my life. I will leave that in. Anyway, yeah, plenty of copper grease. Also on the caliper carrier, the two sliding bits where the brake pads are going to go, plenty on there. And also, top tip: check the dust shield. Sometimes dust shield can be dented in parts, and it can tap against the brake, or when you steer, when you turn left and right, it can just tap against like the track rod ends if it's bent in any way. So make sure when you're doing all this that you don't accidentally, because I've been leaning on it and everything. Just make sure you don't bend it in any way, because it will cause a noise, and then you'll think, "Oh God, what's the noise?" But don't worry about it too much. It's just that dust shield. I was in 2 months about replacing the whole dust shield myself, but I mean, it's an okay condition. It's not that rusted. I can still see the paint on it and things. So I was, but it has got a few dents on it, and I don't know where they've come from. Whether previous owners, when they've changed the brakes, they've been trying to smack the disc off with a hammer and accidentally hit the dust shield, which can happen. If your car hasn't had copper grease put on that hub before the disc has been put on, and it's been on there for a few years, you might need a hammer. You might need a big hammer and a piece of wood to just put the wood on the disc and just keep banging it. But like, if you do what I do and put plenty of WD-40, it will seep in between the disc and the hub, and it will just come off. That's a top tip that I've learned, even though I keep forgetting to do it. But in these situations, it's yeah. So discs on. Now we're back to the wire. We're going to get some crimp things to just take the ends off, so we can expose some of the copper wire to put it back into the connector. If you don't have crimped the proper wire strippers, you can use a Stanley or a pair of pliers, little pincer pliers or something. Just be careful not to cut the whole wire, because there isn't a lot of it. If you have to keep cutting it, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and eventually you won't have enough to reach things. So I've connected it up. I didn't need to solder or anything. I actually rewrapped the thing around it. And then I need to put the two plastic bits together. So the plastic bit that now moves on top, and then there's two rubber weather seals, which you can see just there, the pink things. They need pushing back in. So the plastic thing's on there now. That still needs gluing. That's together. The two pink things need pushing in, and then the rubber thing just past that needs pushing back over the whole thing. So I'm gluing it up, making sure I just pull it apart slightly, put the glue in, and then hold it. And I mean, I've cut most of this part of the video out anyway. I didn't want us to sit there watching glue dry, even though it only takes about 10 seconds. So when I did glue it the first time, it worked, and then it sort of started to come a bit unstuck, because you have to slide it back into the metal holder that's attached to the suspension and the main hub. And when I did that, it started to unclip itself. And then just make sure that when you put your caliper around, the wire for is coming out through the hole of the caliper. So when you take the caliper off, you'll see where the wire comes out. Just make sure when you put the new brake pad in that wire goes out of that hole. Otherwise, you'll be just taking the caliper out, the brake pad out again, and then threading the wire through that hole. Yeah, sorry about my elbows and my head and my body getting in the way. The camera wasn't in a great position. I ignored that the camera was there at most of the time. So wiring and everything's in place now. I went into the car, turned the ignition on, and there was no light on to say brake wear sensor. When I connected it all up, it was fine. Because at first it came up with the warning brake wear sensor, but then the light went off as soon as I started driving. So it all worked in the end. So I didn't do a bad job. How long it'll last, I don't know. But how long's the car got left? It's got 215,000 miles on it. I'll probably keep it, and then if I do get a new one, but I probably won't I won't part with this car. I've had it for 6 years now. So there's me getting in the way again, so you can't really see anything. I'm just making sure that the glue's all set and everything's in place before I start putting the caliper on. And now I am actually putting the caliper in. But you're not going to be able to see it because, my big elbows and hands and shoulders and everything are in the way. It is difficult to realise that you're being filmed and you've got a camera behind you when you just want to get the job finished. This is my weekend off, and so it was back to work Monday. I didn't feel like I had a lot of time off, but I do enjoy it. It's not something. Yeah, it is a hobby as well as a practical thing to save money from expensive garage bills. I'd dread to think how much they would have charged me for this, and the brake wear sensor that they would have replaced the wire. The calipers, I would have had to have 2 new calipers instead of me in the next, not the next video. Next video, I'm doing the rear caliper. The video after that, part 5, I'll be doing caliper repair kits. So I'm going to get 2 caliper repair kits that are on the way, and then I'm going to take both rear calipers off one at a time and take them the whole thing apart and put them all back together with the new rubber seals and dust covers and things. So I'm tightening up the bolts. Put the sliding bolts back in. Just remember from part 1 about the lug. and the brake pad at the bottom that fit onto the caliper carrier to make sure that lines up, it's in place. The brake pad's on the outside, and the little knobbly lug that sticks out of the caliper is on the inside. So tightening them up, make sure they're all lined up in place. I mean, I couldn't really see what I was doing, so at least the camera's in a little bit of a better position now. And I couldn't see whether the sliding bolt was actually going. I was actually screwing it in. So at one point, it was just turning. So you got to get down underneath and just check that it's in the right position. It's just time consuming. These sort of things, not being on the floor makes working on cars extra hard. I mean, if you think about a mechanic, he jacks it up to his right position that he needs it, waist height or shoulder height or wherever, and he can move around as much as he wants. And then if he needs it lower, he just lowers it down, and it makes it so much easier for them to do it. When you're doing it on your driveway or on the road or wherever you're doing it, a friend's house, or or if you've got your own garage, luckily enough, if you've got a garage yourself, then but unfortunately I don't have the luxuries of a ramp. So connecting the plastic connector up and put in place just to show you that it's all done, and then it's basically where I'm touching now with my thumb is that rubber boot there, and the connector, that's where it's snapped in between there. So I just want to say a big thank you for watching the videos, if you've watched them, if you've watched part 1 and part 2. And yes, like and subscribe, and there'll be more videos coming out. Thanks ever so much. Thank you.